I'm the final official speaker tonight. You can clap if you want to. I just want to thank Scott and Judy, Palm and Lori for your wonderful words tonight. And especially to the Michaux and Reynolds families, and in particular to Allison for producing the Lifetime Achievement Award for Ginny. This has been an amazing show, which a few of her best friends, I was advised by a close girlfriend to not name them because there are a lot of people who claim to be Ginny's best friend. So I was told that Ginny would feel like the belle of the ball, and she would absolutely love this. So thank you for being here to celebrate Ginny tonight. So some of my comments are going to be a little PG-13, just going to give a warning ahead of time. Because, you know, I've gotten to know Dick pretty well. I mean, who else flirts with a ladybug? But also, Dick, you mentioned signs, and tonight when I was sitting outside preparing my remarks, and I was looking at Ginny's book available at your local bookstore and also on Amazon, this sunset looked just like this tonight. A beautiful sign from Ginny. I want to begin with a quote. Blessed are the parents whose final words on leaving the house, the car, the least inconsequential phone call are always, I love you. They will leave behind children who are lost and still found, broken and somehow still whole. I wanted to start with that message to Allison and Rick in particular, because I thought if we could get through that without crying, we'll be fine for the rest of the night. That quote from a famous environmental essayist, Margaret Rankle. Rankle was important to Ginny, taped onto Ginny's desk in the sunniest room in the house. With big windows, I always imagined that she could peek out and maybe see Dick's orchids below, the corner of her eye. She'd written down another quote from Rankle as well. We learn more when we are moved, more than when we are just informed. More about that quote in a moment. That was, of course, my guiding principle as a TV reporter, a novelist, and someone who now helps extraordinary people like Ginny, and let's be honest, her entire family, share their stories with news organizations. It was the principle that inspired Ginny to write her wonderful climate fiction thriller, A Tree for Antarctica. Rankle and Michaux, as we like to call her, believe deeply we are connected to our landscape, which is why I chose this bright blue party dress for this celebration. The blue of the sky, the blue of the ocean, the blue of Ginny's eyes, Ginny's favorite color. People are going to use and have used the same words to describe Ginny forever. Courageous, loving, adventurous, a badass. Without fail, Dick is going to add, and short, Dick liked to say that the penguins of Antarctica greeted Ginny because they thought she was one of them. He actually shouted that out loud in the middle of her presentation. Do you remember this? In your parents' backyard? She was also talking about in that presentation finding herself in a tent with two male guides, half her age, and we're all thinking, how's Dick's gonna feel about this part of the story? And Dick shouted out, hope you packed clean underwear, Gin. Dick could always make Ginny laugh and shake her head and blush. I mean, the public story goes most popular Ginny met the love of her life in the halls of the Myrtle Beach High School. But the first time I had dinner with the Michaux, Dick moved that encounter right under the bleachers outside the football field. Dick is right, Ginny was short. But being petite as a penguin, only added to her magic. Number one, and probably the hardest part for me to accept that she isn't here with us in the flesh. It genuinely spoke truth to her childlike wonder about the world. As Dick said, our little girl. Number two, it made her accomplishments of crossing parts of every continent including going to the North and South Poles on skis, seemed that much more unlikely and extraordinary. Number 3, it made the rest of us feel like giants. Ginny made each of us feel like a giant. Ginny loved to make everyone else feel important, like they were the ones penning novels at 76. I mean, who does that? Who decides, battling cancer in the twilight of life, this is a good time to write a novel? Ginny did. My soul sister sitting here, Brooke Stroud Carnot, who shares with Ginny a commitment to helping people heal through therapy, psychology, 2 professionals with endless reserves of empathy, introduced me to Allison. Around 2009, I was a reporter over in NBC4, and we were doing a story on PKU and little Tia, and the latest little fundraiser for a cure. I think they raised over $1 million in that fundraiser. So many rare diseases search for that holy grail of a cure, but only one had Ginny behind this quest. And here I picture Ginny not so much as a petite penguin or in her Carolina blue, but in hoplite armor with sharpened sword drawn and maybe Wonder Woman cuffs on as well. Ginny was tireless, undefeatable when it came to saving Tia's life. Early on, Ginny cooked thousands of Tia's low-protein meals to keep her healthy and thriving. She went on to found the National PKU Alliance, the national voice for PKU, the driver of research in the US. She helped establish the Scientific Advisory Board. She served on it. They consider all grant proposals. They make investment decisions for treatment and a cure. She served on that board and as an advisor until the day she no longer took breath on this earth. Ginny worked closely with the FDA, ensuring approval of the drug that Tia now takes daily to treat PKU. It's called Palynziq, and if you follow Tia's Instagram, which I recommend you do not, you will see, thanks to the pioneering, groundbreaking, and life-saving work of her grandmother, Tia is able to eat the best food on the planet without risking brain damage. Who does that? Who helps find the next best thing to a cure for her grandchild? Ginny did. When Allison started training to cross-country ski across Norway to raise funds for PKU research, I met her out on the C&O Canal towpath. She was dragging tires behind her, and everyone who looked at her was like, who does that? Well, Ginny did it first, when she was 55 years old in preparation to ski across the North Pole. Last year was Hudson's turn. He's like, good God, what do I need to do to keep up with this family? So he and Dad, Kai, chose Mount Kilimanjaro and supported his sister and all patients with PKU. And when I pitched this story to a producer at CBS, I pushed really hard for them to pinpoint the story, the source of all this courageousness, adventurousness, badassness, and love. There's not enough time in TV news to tell the whole story sometimes. They told a beautiful story. But everyone in this room knows that it was Ginny behind the risk-taking and pushing the physical limits and geographical boundaries, whether it's to save the planet or to save one of her grandchildren. When I collaborated with Ginny to try to get publicity for her book, it was not an easy process. Not because of Ginny. Ginny was amazing, and everything I did was spectacular. Those are Ginny's words. Reporters shy away from stories that smell like self-promotion, and books often are associated with that. We all knew she was donating all proceeds to PKU research, but still, Ginny didn't mind the grind. I'm sure that doesn't surprise you. She relished every book signing, every podcast. She endured my mini interviews sitting on Brooke's couch that we posted on social media. Ginny was not comfortable with the quick sound bites. She didn't like popping in and out of context. She didn't want to be responsible for closing down of anyone's mind. But Waking the world up to climate change was no doubt one of her greatest passions. In one of those many interviews talking about ice melt, her eyes were glassy. And of course, the journalist has to ask, where are those tears coming from? And she burst into tears, floodgates, genuinely fearful for her grandchildren, their generation and beyond. And then she said, do not publish that video. Everyone's gonna think I'm just a crazy old lady bawling about climate change. The next thing she said stayed with me. And it takes us back to that rankle quote from the very beginning that Ginny had taped to her desk. We learn more when we are moved than when we are just informed. So I asked Ginny, why did you write fiction? I mean, here you've had the most incredible life, seen the most incredible things. Your memoir would be just extraordinary. Why fiction? And Ginny said, because people don't believe the science, but maybe they'll listen to a good story. And then she said, don't publish that either. That sounded really harsh. But it was and is the truth. On page 13 of Ginny's book, she writes about an imagined wicked flood 250 years forward. Quoting now, dried up creeks and braided swampy rivers fill up and spill over now with about every hard rain. Comes 3 or 4 inches in an hour regular. That much don't soak in like it used to. I lived in Greenville, South Carolina for a little while, so I'm allowed to say it like that. As we all recently read about the 14 inches of rain that fell on western North Carolina over 3 days, who didn't think that right now Ginny would be up in Vermont buying that upward plot of land tonight? Seriously, she would have been heartsick to hear what happened to her beloved, drowned and muddied Asheville. Let's not leave it on that thought. Ginny wouldn't want us to. She didn't like her book being described as apocalyptic. At her core, she was an optimist. I mean, those bright blue eyes sparkled. I recently heard it said that we are not buried when we die. We are planted. I think Ginny would like that. Her book ends appropriately with a memorial service. I'm not going to give it all away, but it's for a loved one. And there are children, and there are cakes, and there are laughing, and most importantly, everyone is smiling. And Ginny writes, she indulges in a tiny hope. No matter what the ultimate fate of Homo sapiens might be, nature on Earth, given more eons of time, would someday evolve other wondrous creatures again. It's hard to imagine a more wondrous creature than Virginia Ann Johnson Michaux. But she thought there were 4, well, more than that, but 4 of them are here tonight, more wondrous creatures. Georgia, Ava, Hudson, and Tia. You grandkids have some giant-sized 5.5 shoes to fill. I'd like to ask each of you to come forward to say a word tonight. Thank you.